Hey everyone, grace and peace. This is Charles here with your midweek recharge. And this week I want to tell you a story about a dynamic duo, maybe the first dynamic duo, certainly of its kind. There was a woman, Naomi, and Naomi had a family. She had a husband and two sons, and there was a famine in her hometown, in all of the region, actually. Naomi and her family were from Bethlehem in Judah, and there was a famine across the entire land. And to try to provide for his family and survive the famine, Naomi's husband, Eliakim, moved them to another territory. A territory that was not so much on God's favorites list. The Moabites had been longtime enemies of Israel, and even though they were in kind of a period of peace, still not a great group of folks to be associated with. But Naomi and her husband were desperate to flee the famine. And wouldn't you know it, things don't turn out great. And though Naomi's sons grow a bit and get married, 10 years later, Naomi's husband has died, her two sons have died, and so it is Naomi and her two daughter-in-laws that are left. Naomi gives her daughter-in-laws an out clause. Go back to your families. I'm going back to my hometown. I'm going to go back to my family, see if I can find someone that will take me in. But you guys should stay here. You have your own families. And her first daughter-in-law, Orpah, says, I love you. I hate to see you go, but I'm gonna go back to my family. But her second daughter-in-law, Ruth, refuses to leave. And in fact, it says to Naomi, and it's I think one of the greatest quotes in Scripture, wherever you be, I will be. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. And I don't need to tell you, you fast forward a bit, and Ruth and Naomi go back to Judah. They end up getting connected with some of Naomi's old family. And there's a great guy, Boaz, that is smitten with Ruth and ends up marrying her. And their great-grandson is King David. So not a bad ending to that story. But why do I share that? I share that because Ruth was not afraid to kind of go with the flow. And in some respects, go with the status quo. I know that we talk a lot about, bucking tradition and swimming against the stream and disruption and doing things differently just for the sake of doing things differently. But you know what? Ruth found her sweet spot. She found her comfort zone with her mother-in-law, Naomi. She found validation, she found support, she found love, she found affection, and she decided, I'm not going to give this up. I don't really know what's waiting for me in Judah, but Naomi's family's there, and I love Naomi, and I want to be with Naomi, and I want to stay with Naomi, so I'm going to stay with Naomi. I'm not going to necessarily take the quote-unquote path less traveled by. Now, some of you could make that argument and say, well, Charles, she did leave her homeland and she did leave her family behind to go with Naomi. And I would say she did, but she stayed with the person she was most comfortable with. Ruth didn't actually leave her comfort zone. And so while I think it's important for us to challenge ourselves, I think it's important for us to push and look for opportunities for personal growth, it's also important to remember that sometimes where you are is where you're supposed to be. So my recharge for you this week is to encourage you to take inventory. Look around and decide if where you are is pretty good. And if it is, stay there. Because there just might be more for you where you are. Let that be your recharge. Take care, fam.